Printing this experimental cookbook has been a bit tricky because I can't or haven't been able to go in there now with the 25k bubble and our 2-week lockdown coming to an end. Hooray! I can, but you know, I ended up getting some samples sent to me. I have my envelopes that I'll send them out in. Here's the front cover. I will decide on which GSM, gloss or non-gloss situation today. Very exciting, means I can definitely print it next week. Hey honey bunches, how are you doing? It's a Saturday and it's a bit dreary, a bit overcast. I've just taken Melon for a walk. I'm really loving the book I'm reading, which is Hank Green's An Absolutely Remarkable Thing. The main character isn't likable, but she's self-aware, and it's like a friendly aliens invade the world, but it's not so much about that. It's more about overnight fame and social media and discourse in today's world. It's really gripping. It's like a Netflix bingeable thing in a book. I don't know why on a Saturday, but there were 3 pen pal letters in the letterbox. I'm feeling really cute today in these overalls, which make me feel like a Cabbage Patch Kid. They're from Lucy and Yak, and I had some Lucy and Yak overalls 3 years ago, but they've really improved their cut. And that was when I thought I liked wearing black, but no, I'm more a blue and some gentle colour kind of person. Anyway, I approached them and they sent me these, and I feel like it very accurately depicts the inner me. I feel very cute. And they're super comfortable, and all the pockets, I have to roll them up a bazillion times because I don't have long legs, but I kind of like that look on really sturdy denim, and this is. So thank you Lucy and Yak for these. I am thrilled. I just did some research for custom sticker printing and a few other hypothetical would be really cool to actualize Etsy related things. Something I really want to achieve this year is, yeah, consolidate my Etsy shop, have it sort of reflect me rather than me from 4 years ago. It's just one of those things that takes so much time that by the time you actually finish whatever it is you've made, you might be a different person, and your style and yeah, what you want your shop to look like, sell, has moved on. I think something that definitely hasn't helped is that I've become more of a perfectionist because I kind of know more of you and I don't want to make crappy stuff. This might seem a bit naff or something, but in contacting brands and asking if they'll send me some stuff, it's really helped me sort of change my mindset about HBOT for the better, which you might be like, are you selling out? And that's not really what I mean at all. I mean to get like consistent emails relating to HBOT and consistently be like talking to people, maybe recipes you're developing for them, just have someone exterior to myself to communicate with really helps me feel like this is real, because otherwise it's just me, and with the pandemic and with lockdowns and living with my fam who are doing other stuff and not seeing friends as often and not feeling like this community is very physical, it can be really lonely and a bit too virtual. And but yeah, that's just to say that having some accountability in terms of like making a recipe for the vegan dairy, for example, or having my cookbooks in physical shops, or hopefully one day doing cooking classes, or a meal delivery element, is so good for maintaining consistent mental health and making this feel like a much more real, tangible thing. It's not so virtual. I have a whole social media related chat in me that sort of relates to this, but we might do that this afternoon. I'm gonna go make some pizzas and photograph them. I think I need to visit my grandparents this afternoon. I really want to finish my book. It's really gripping. We'll see. secchi, but yeah, I was just looking at the news and I'm not even sure that we'll be staying out of lockdown for that long. Don't know that it was a smart decision to come out of it. This feels like last year, and I've said this to a couple of friends this week, but it's almost like, yeah, the hardest part of lockdown is coming out of it, or the readjusting coming out of lockdowns. It's really hard because you don't have a choice to sort of adjust into a lockdown, and during that time you are missing the things you can't do. And then when it ends, which is always a bit like, oh, are we sure, because the date keeps moving, they inevitably get extended, you want to go and do all those things you couldn't and make the most of your freedom, but the mental fatigue makes it hard to shift gears and get out. I think I'm like hesitant to talk about social media related stuff because I don't want to like just put other people down, but I think it's something that, like, I've probably said this before, but like post 2020 a lot of relationships are changing, and that involves our one with social media. I feel like there are two things like on this scale that are catching my attention. Like on one end you've got people not enjoyed their relationship with certain social media platforms for a long time, like actually stepping away from it for good, and then on the other end I feel you've got people who are still doing the same thing, but just sort of joining the conversation around like damning hustle culture and saying how important it is to avoid burnout, but really they're still using productivity in every sentence, and even like that is the holy grail. And even in relaxation or self-care settings, somehow the notion of productivity is like creeping into that, which I don't think is a new concept. Like, how many of us can relate to when you actually have time to yourself, finding it really hard to actually spend that time in a way that's enjoyable, and at the end of it you end up beating yourself up over a sort of non-productive relaxing or self-care time that could have been spent doing some like really good self-care or relaxation and recharging. But then that's just like the productivity mindset creeping into that space as well. I won't name like certain YouTubers that make me think of that end of the spectrum. They're generally younger than me, and they probably catch my interest because I like can see myself in them in some way as well, feeling the need to be productive all the time and probably using productivity and learning all the time and to-do list lifestyles as a coping mechanism or to mask something uncomfy underneath. So it's not something to like hate on people for, but I've noticed in the vegan community there's a lot of people stepping away or even retiring. Like the woman behind Keeping It Kind recently retired her blog. I've noticed lots of posts from different recipe developer bloggers saying how they really don't know what to do with their platform going forward, that they're feeling huge amounts of burnout, and because the only way to sort of stay in people's mind and stay in the feed and have any sort of impact or presence in the algorithm is to keep posting, like the joy is being completely taken out of it. I'm really selective these days about like the vegan circles I am in, because they can be so eating disordery, and I don't know, their style of discourse I just don't find very productive or intersectional. So this might not resonate with you, but I do feel like veganism, unpopular opinion, is like finishing its day in the sun. I don't mean that I don't mean that less people are stopping eating animal products. I think it's on the rise, obviously. But the word vegan and everything that associated with it in like the 2015 to 2018 time is like winding down or losing a bit of momentum. I feel like a lot of the vegan YouTubers, which I guess I am part of, you know, started when they were teens, and then sort of like, well, now they're wanting to live lives. And well, I think it's really sad that it's such a big thing if people just want to step away and stop doing things like YouTube or keeping an account, posting content. And why does something have to be forever? Things can be for a season of our lives, but I feel like the young vegan audience has sort of grown up a bit. And a couple of years ago, and again, like I am part of this, we're extremely enthusiastic and would buy anything like cookbooks and t-shirts and would throw money at anything related to random vegan paraphernalia. That cohort like had dispensable income, but I think that group of people has kind of changed, and maybe they've done some self-reflection on some relationships to food, and maybe realizing they didn't come to eating vegan with the healthiest or most balanced intentions. And like what I'm noticing is when people have done that self-reflection, it's like, well, how do you continue on with something that was born out of disordered eating, or just like a version of yourself when you were 16, you know? Well, on one hand I do think like we're all aware that social media demands like growth and reinvention. At the same time, it doesn't really welcome like genuine growth and actually evolving in a real world sense. It demands evolving in sort of like an entertainment content type of way, but I don't feel like it's very forgiving of just wanting to live a normal life that might in some seasons of your life involve social media and an online presence, but other times not. And also realizing a large part of what you do revolves around being in online spaces can be a really depressing thought, and one you're not so comfortable with, and I definitely relate to that. Hence why I'm craving more in real life stuff, but I think that's just so exacerbated as well by the current situation in the world, and that coinciding with me being in my like young 20s, low 20s, early 20s. And I'm certainly asking myself questions like, I was a younger vegan and I was one of those passionate ones who bought a lot of cookbooks. Yes, I do have a genuine interest in cooking. As someone who's trying to like get a proper cookbook published that will happen to be vegan, yeah, I'm definitely asking like, does the world really need another one? Because the people who have vegan cookbooks probably have quite a few. I feel like those weren't bought at like a sustainable rate, and now people are probably over them, because if they eat vegan or want to know how to cook without animal products, they've probably learned enough, because I think most people are cooking that way sometimes and just cooking how they did another time, and it is a huge knowledge set, and just to grab a bit of that and use that to supplement the usual way of cooking, like, you're kind of good. You've got a lot of variety. Anyway, all that's just to say that I'm always constantly flip-flopping between being really grateful for this space, but also just being so over it. And even though I know because of messages and the certain engagement I get sometimes that like that the people who watch my videos are good uns. They're really lovely. I really don't get that much engagement these days, and the occasional comment you get where someone is not talking to you, they're talking like about you as if you're not there. It's like, I am right here. I see everything. I think it's really sad. Not that I've watched, I think I've watched like one Emma Chamberlain video in my whole life, but I saw like a small video about her recently, and yeah, that just made me really sad for her, and the like culture around putting people on hierarchies and how social media just makes us not communicate like normally. But to finish on a positive note, like a positive that has helped make like this feel more real, and a silver lining that's come out of having to be more insular in your place, is feel a bit more of a community in the city that you are in, and instead of just, for example, following random food accounts from all over the world, finding like the emerging writers community here in Melbourne, that there's also a crossover in food appreciation, also a crossover in people who have gut problems, is really cool and makes it just feel more real again, and leads to more real community. Not this isn't real, but maybe it's real but it's not reliable.